Hello and welcome back to another Fish Fridays with me, Ben, the Amputee Angler, where every Friday at 6 p.m. I'll sit and discuss with you one of the many fish species we've got here in and around the UK, and I'll talk rigs, tactics, baits and descriptions and records, and I'll even throw in a few top tips as well. And this week we're going to be talking about the hard fighting pollock. Let's go. So the pollock, a really hard fighting fish, really sought after by both anglers and commercials alike, located all along the south coast, all the way down to Cornwall and up through Ireland as well, and they have other variants across the pond as well, but a really well populated fish. It's heavily targeted by commercials, especially down the west, and it's actually been a bit decimated in recent years by wreck netting. Wreck netting, for those that aren't aware, is basically where a set tangle net is shot over a wreck. It takes quite a degree of skill to do, but when you get good at it, it is absolutely devastating, and 100+ boxes of pollock a trip for commercials is not unheard of. That end, the stocks of pollock are very sort of very down on what they used to be, but there is still plenty of fish for the rod and line angler to catch as well, so it's not all doom and gloom. A big green fish, big predatory fish. They're rapid, they are really fast. Big bulging eyes, and that's a typical predatory feature of any sort of fish, is big predatory eyes. An underslung jaw, what I mean by that is the bottom bit of the jaw protrudes over the top bit, and that shoots out and grabs their prey. Bait fish, anything like that, crustaceans as well, that's what pollock are going to be eating. So your squid, your herring, your pouts, all the usual sort of stuff that your bass would eat, a pollock's going to have as well. Really hard fighting fish. You get one on, you know about it, they crash dive, and the initial fight on a pollock is unlike anything else. It is boom 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 boom. Green in sort of colour, massive great paddle tail, and they have a lateral line down the side, sometimes confused with coalfish. If you don't know what you're looking at, an easy way to tell is the lateral line. In a pollock it has a bend in it, so the line down the side will have a slight drop and then it'll go to the tail, whereas a coalfish is completely straight, and a coalfish tends to be slightly more grayer, whereas a pollock is more green. So sizes, pollock, they do get quite big, although the top end of the sizes, like I said, because they are commercially targeted, we're not seeing so many bigger fish about now. But the current shore record is an 18-pound 4-ounce fish, and that's a shore record, so a lovely pollock from the shore. And the boat record stands at 29-pound 4, which is a monster. And both of those records are from the late 80s, so they haven't been beaten for a long time. And I don't think they will be beaten personally for a while yet, because they are such a commercially targeted fish. Until I think protections come in a bit more for pollock around wrecks, I think we are going to struggle to see those records beaten anytime soon. Still plenty of high double figure fish out there though. Lots of 16, 18s, 19s about every year. And I did see a 22-pound fish caught the other day down west, which is an absolutely brilliant, certainly the biggest I've heard of for a while, to an angler anyway. So there is still big fish lurking about. Lots of 8, 9, 10-pound fish about. Pollock, they tend to breed early part of the year, certainly here at Brighton Way, Eastbourne. January, February, they are way offshore, 20, 25 miles. They do their breeding, shoot their roe, their eggs, and then as they do that, they start to filter back inshore, and the inshore wrecks start to fill up with pollock through the summer as well. So time of this video is the 31st of March. We was out the other day and we had some lovely pollock inshore, and when we gutted them out, the 2 we kept, one was a male, but the female that we had shot all its roe. So they'd obviously done their business, laid their eggs, and now back in the March, April time, they're starting to populate the inshore wrecks as well. So early part of the year, offshore, deeper water, and then they start coming inshore, populating those close 70, 80, 90 foot wrecks. So rigs and tactics. Most popular way is lures for pollock. Generally that's how they get caught, is on lures. How you do that is up to you. Whether you're fishing direct, so you're fishing like a Storm GT or a Savage Gear weighted lure, straight to a bit of fluoro and then you braid. A bit of light spinning set up. That's a great way to catch pollock inshore and offshore. You just need to scale your gear up accordingly depending on the depths and the tides. Another way is a fish with a boom and a shad. So you have your 6, 8 ounce lead, whatever you're using, on a sliding boom. That'll go to a length of fluorocarbon, generally about 6, 7 foot, but that can be up to 15 foot, depending on how you like fishing. Me personally, I do about 6 foot, send it down to the bottom, steady retrieve, and then just repeat up, down, until something takes your lure. That's done primarily over wrecks. Inshore though, reef fishing for pollock, especially down west, is a really good way of fishing for them as well. Casting, retrieving, bouncing, jigging, slow pitch jigs, that sort of stuff all works really well for pollock as well. You can also float fish for pollock using a live sand eel or a live pout. A way that I like doing here when I can get hold of them is using a live herring, and I'll fish that like I do with the lures. So boom and a shad, but without the shad I'm using a live bait. So boom, your lead, length of fluorocarbon, and a little treble hook or a single hook for the lip of a herring. Send that down as a live bait, drift over the top of the wrecks. That works really well as well. But inshore, float fish baits, they're going to pick you up pollock as well if there's a pollock population there. So like I said, coming on to how to catch them, essentially all we're doing is we're lure fishing over a wreck or a bit of reef. Drifting down, sending your lure up and down, and just repeating until you get to the end of the drift, and then you go around again. Pollock, they do tend to sit quite high on the wrecks, so cod will sit down amongst the wreck and you can get them hard on the deck. Pollock are generally floating around and they can be as high as 30, 40 turns up sometimes, depending on the wreck. So don't be scared to give it a good wind. A lot of pollock are often caught when the skipper says, bring it in, and you're bombing it in nice and fast. And sometimes it can be taken mid-water almost. So when you're going over a wreck and you're working a wreck, especially as a pleasure angler, make sure you're not only covering all of the wreck, so the front, the middle, the back, that you're also covering the different heights as well. Because more often than not, what can happen is you're actually bringing your lure up 10, 15 turns, and then the fish are sitting 20, 25, 30 turns up, and your lure's not even hitting where the fish are. So make sure that you're also, as well as covering the wreck, that you're covering the heights as well before going, that's it, we're moving on. So make sure that that's in your back of your mind as well. On the reefs, look out for the bigger features and structures on your sounder. If you see a nice little peak, make sure you mark it and then have a drift over it, because more often than not, the pollock are sat behind. Much like bass, if the tide's running that way and your feature's there, the pollock are going to be behind it. So make sure you give it all a good going over with these lures. Live baiting is exactly the same. Get those baits down on the float, or even if you're dragging a live bait round, make sure that you're varying your depths and you're testing out where these pollock are in the water. Now, when it comes to lure colours for pollock, and indeed any fish, everyone's got their favourite colours. I like pinks for pollock. I think they work really well. I don't know why. It's one of those things when you catch something on a lure, you then think that's automatically the one to go with. So you fish that more because you're confident in it, and then you tend not to try anything else. But pinks and oranges, those sort of colours for pollock I like personally. However, on a darker day where it's a bit overcast, a dark lure, a nice black lure, or a fire tail, something with black body and like a red tail or a bright yellow tail, I call them fire tails, they tend to work well because the black colour of the lure in darker conditions actually, for a fish looking up, creates a really good silhouette. So on the darker gloomy days, I prefer a darker colour lure. Again, probably personal preference, that's just what I like and I find it works, so that's what I tend to stick with, but that tends to work really well. And then the slow jigs, the metals, anything in an orange, pink, you know, it's lure fishing. I'm a big fan of lures catch more anglers than fish more often than not, and that's definitely the case for pollock as well. Coming on to top tips then. First top tip is live baits. If you can get them, live baits do work a real treat for pollock. My personal favourite is herring, but we only get those certain times a year. If you can't get a live bait, a dead bait will pick it up as well. Make sure you have a stinger hook in the back, so not only are you lip hooking through the head, but you put a little hook in the back, because they are absolutely rapid pollock and they often just smash and grab. So you want to have your two hooks to make sure that if they grab the back of the bait, you're going to hook up. They've got mouths like buckets, so don't be scared to go big hooks, 6-0, 8-0s, that sort of thing. Even when it comes to the lures, we fish 8 to 10 inch lures sometimes, especially in the early part of the year. So you don't think you have to go small. Sometimes a nice big lure is what's going to get their attention. In that deeper water, they have got massive eyes, and when a pollock hits you, it hits hard. That first run is going to be like something, if you've never caught one, it's going to be like something you've never experienced. They do smash it. So make sure you get your live baits, get them fresh. If not, try dragging dead baits as well, because that will often pick up fish when the lures won't. Top tip, live baits, dead baits for pollock. So the second top tip for pollock I'm going to give you, and it's a really basic one, but I guarantee that people still won't do it, and that's check your drag settings before you leave the dock. Because when you're pollock fishing, that initial dive is honestly so hard and crashy that if you've got your drag wound up bar tight, you're just going to pull the hook. You need to give them a little bit of drag, just enough so that you can pull some line off. So when they dive, the tension on the hook is still in there, but it's got a bit of line to give. If you have it bar tight, you're just going to lose a lot of pollock. So set your drag, make sure it can take line, but when it does, it's going to tire itself out, because if you don't have it set, you're going to lose more fish than you're going to catch. So just enough so you can pull it off, but not so tight that it's going to snap the hook and rip out their skin. Well, that has been another Fish Fridays, and that was the pollock. I hope you enjoyed it and took something away from it. I have a whole host of these videos now, so if you're looking at catching a few other fish and maybe want a few top tips or to learn a few things, head over to my little Fish Fridays section playlist. There's a whole load more on there, and depending when you're watching this, there'll be even more coming. So please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you all again soon.